Good morning, everyone.
Right?
Good morning and welcome to Doing Business in Bentonville AI Retail Summit. Thank you for being here. It's so good to see everyone. It's been almost 5 years since Doing Business in Bentonville has been able to have a live event. And I will tell you, I've been looking forward to this for the last 5 years. My name is Andy Wilson. I'm the Executive Director of Doing Business in Bentonville. And I'm going to tell you a bit about us and remind you about Doing Business in Bentonville. I give you a little history, and then I want to tell you where we're going as a company. I want to step back. I guess our late Cameron Smith, our friend, founded Doing Business in Bentonville, I guess Wayne, in about 1989, somewhere in that area, right? And so anyway, 6 years ago, I get this call from Cameron Smith. And if you know the late Cameron Smith, it goes like this. Andy, what are you doing? Well, I'm working. I want you in my office. Yes, sir. And that was it. I drove to his office. And if you know Cameron, you did not turn Cameron down, right? Because you went to his office or wherever when he called. So I sat down with him, and then Wayne Callahan is here. Wayne, thank you, my friend, because we had a great conversation that day. And Wayne and Cameron said, hey, Andy, we want you to lead Doing Business in Bentonville. And what we did back then, if you remember, if you were here then, we had live events here in Bentonville, Rogers at a hotel. We invite our supplier group. We had executives there from Walmart or from other organizations, and we talked about our business in retail. My background is almost 30 years at Walmart. I grew up there. And so growing up there, I've seen a lot of change, just like we have today. There's so much change in the future. We're going to talk a bit about that in a few moments. But it was so exciting. So we were doing the live events, then COVID happened. We all know what happened then. The live events stopped. During that time, I met a friend, Eric Howerton. And Eric and I became very good friends, and he had a tech company at the time. And we just had conversations and coffees throughout. The only reason, though, that he spent time with me is because he wanted, for the price of 2 tables, so he could invite people there, and I would charge him for only 1 table. I realized that at that point, but we still continued our friendship. So anyway, our friendship grew. And then after Cameron passed away, Eric acquired Doing Business in Bentonville, and he called me up, and I was working with him and Wayne all through the process. And Eric shared with me some ideas about the future. And he shared to me, he said, Andy, the future is podcast shows. He said, that's the future. And I knew nothing about podcast shows. I would listen or watch some podcasts from time to time, but I knew nothing about it. He said, I'm going to teach you about the podcast shows. We're going to develop a media company. Today, Doing Business in Bentonville is a media company. And I want to share with you what we've been working on for the future. And if you look at the statistics up there, we have now over 86,000 viewers and listeners. We have over 4,000 followers and 515,000 impressions. We've been extremely busy over the last, thank you. Thank you very much. Over the last year or so, we've had hundreds of podcasts. And with this journey, we've had some co-hosts working alongside of us, making this happen. There's a lot of people working. Podcast video studio located across just the lawn here. It's a phenomenal facility, great people working there, helping and supporting this. Also, there's some of our podcast hosts here today. I don't want to miss anyone, but I see Scott Benedict here. Scott is doing a great job as a host, and he's got his own moment or minute that you do, and you're all over the area. Scott, so thank you for that. Deanna Baker, where are you? Deanna, she's a co-host. Now, Deanna's history is Walmart. Scott's Walmart and Sam's. And we'd love to have you join Deanna on a podcast. I'd love for you to join me on a podcast. I think I've seen a Stafford somewhere. Where are you at? Are you here? I thought I'd seen Josh come in at some point. Oh, there you are, Josh. Hey, welcome. Josh has a great show. And of course, if you need a haircut, he can take care of that too. Right, Josh? So, anyway, it's been such a great team effort. And I just want to tell you how much we appreciate this live event. Now, a bit more about the future. We will continue doing live events. In fact, we're going to announce today a next upcoming live event. It will be in January. We'll tell you a bit about that in a few minutes. Then we're also going to be working on other live events. Last week, I had the opportunity as a Walmart officer alumni to attend an event with Doug McMillan and then John Furner. As you all know the news, what's going on at Walmart. And as I was sitting there and listening to Doug and John talk about the future of Walmart, the future of retail, and I was taking notes as fast as I could, Deanna, on my phone, trying to capture everything they were saying, because I was thinking about this event and future events. And I thought about something Sam Walton said. Because, we were talking about Mr. Sam at that event, and, I just put up, there's lots of quotes that Sam says, but Sam says, ignore conventional wisdom and go the other way. AI is going to change retail. It's already been a tremendous amount of change around omni-channel, and we're focused on that at doing business in Bentonville. That's our mission, and that's our vision. But AI is the future change of retail. And then Sam also says, if everyone else is doing it one way, you can often find your niche by going the opposite direction. One of the things we want to do at doing business in Bentonville is be your partner. We want us to come alongside each other, and we want to do several things. We want to help you in your company, in your business. We want to walk beside you with change. We want to walk beside you and encourage you through our workshops that we'll be having at Doing Business in Bentonville. We'll be doing other live events, and I want to encourage you to reach out to me in a few minutes. You'll see my email up there, and you can reach out to me, and we're going to establish another group steering committee, Wayne, like we had in the past, for us to learn together for future live events and other things. Then Doug McMillan said this. You read this quote, but he stated it again last week when we were at the home office. Doug said, it's very clear that AI is going to change literally every job. I began thinking about that after last week, and I was talking to Eric. I said, one of the things we need to do is have an retail AI with people. Because my background, I spent the last 10 years of my career at Walmart as running human resources or the people division for Walmart. And we had a lot of change because we were moving from super centers and growth, and from the original Walmart to super centers. We did all that. It was about change of roles and responsibilities. AI is going to have a huge effect on how we staff our stores, how we staff our companies, how we train our people and prepare them for the future. Doug also said, maybe there's a job in the world that AI won't change, but he says, but I haven't thought of it. So AI is going to change our future, but your partner that's going to be with you through this is Doing Business in Bentonville. And you're going to hear a lot about our future. Okay, so that's a bit about where we were. This is where we're going. So next thing I want to do is bring up my co-host. And Chase is going to come up. And Chase Benny, he is CEO of Retail Wire. He's become a good friend. We've had opportunity to be together. He's going to introduce our sponsors, and we'll go through that. Then we're going to introduce our panel, and then we're going to get forward with our panel. They're such a great quality group. You're going to really love what they're going to do. But before Chase takes over, I want to thank Acosta and Troy, thank you so much. Tony, thank you so much. Thank you for finding this venue. Tony, please tell Don we really appreciate this also. Pass it. And I love this venue so much, but I need a little help. Maybe you could help me encourage Tony and Don. We could come back, maybe, to this. You guys think about it. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Chase, welcome. Let's welcome Chase. So glad you're being my host today.
Thanks, Andy. And, this kind of event wouldn't be possible with the sponsors. So, Acosta, thank you so much for having us at the venue. It's very cozy, feels like a big living room. So, and then, of course, Retail Wire, which I lead and represent, and Sev is here from my team. A few of us here in Bentonville and a few in New York and London. And we'll be at NRF and some of the next upcoming retail conferences. Crisp is a very special company here that has a presence here in Bentonville, and we will be bringing up Heather for a minute, who's in town, and I hear they're having their own Christmas party. So it's a festive time of year. Crisp is a great platform. I learned about them actually through RA, the founder, and they just launched a new office here at the Ledger. So it's a very cool platform, all about clean data, which we're going to talk about that too, in the world of AI, dirty data or clean data. And then Tribe is another platform. A couple of the guys are here. Is Jason in the room? In the back, I saw a hand go up. Another really cool platform that helps CPG suppliers communicate with the retail teams in a really seamless way. CSA, Cameron Smith, Hubbard, and podcast videos. And so with that, I want to bring up Heather from Crisp to introduce our panelists.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for being here today. As Chase mentioned, my name's Heather Merton and I'm with Crisp. If you're new to Crisp, we are an AI-powered retail analytics platform focused on helping brands and retailers better serve their customers by unlocking the power of the retailer direct granular data across the business. We're headquartered here in Northwest Arkansas. We've got offices at the Ledger, as Chase said, and then also in Springdale. I'm super excited that you've joined us today for this panel, AI in Retail. I've been on a couple of panels and I've been applying AI into the category management space for about 7 years. And one of the quotes I love is, AI will not replace people. People with AI will replace people without AI, right? So learning, staying up to date on where AI is going, where it is today, and how you can apply it to your business is really important. On our panel today, I have the distinct pleasure to introduce a handful of folks. First, we've got Bill Akins. I didn't confirm with you how to pronounce your last name, so I hope it's Akins. From the University of Arkansas, Bill is a purpose-driven executive, educator, and innovator whose career bridges enterprise transformation, applied AI, and human-centered leadership. Over 25 years, Bill has led digital and cultural transformation across the consumer goods, retail, and education sectors. Next, we have Chris Brantley, who leads digital consumer experience for L'Oreal's Walmart business and has nearly 15 years in e-commerce and CPG. He's held senior digital and e-commerce roles at The Bountiful Company, Kellogg's, Colgate-Palmolive, and Clorox. Jack Rudelick from Slalom works with companies across the central region to build strategic roadmaps that drive real business value, whether that's AI-powered transformation, large-scale product development, or internal tools that improve operations. And last but not least, Brandon Viveros brings over 15 years of experience driving digital innovation for leading CPG brands. As a seasoned agency executive and educator, he now leads the charge in redefining retail media at adfury.ai, helping brands unlock creative performance at scale. Please join me in welcoming our panel.
So I've led quite a few roundtables and discussions like this. And one of the things, just to frame it up, is, we've got some experts here. And I'm here also to learn. So I'm also a student of this. And, a lot of us in the room, we want to learn about this stuff too. But the word expert is kind of a loaded term when it comes to, new technologies. But show of hands, how many people here feel like they're an expert in AI? We got one brave soul who would say that. So most of us, we would say we're beginners. And so when we dive into this, that's the framework: open mind and really learning from those who are spending their time to be here and share with us. So first of all, to kick us off, really the big question is, in a world where agents are shopping, not just humans are shopping, there are agents shopping, what ensures that your brand will get chosen? So on the topic of AI agents and agentic shopping, Bill, do you want to kick us off with your thoughts on that?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, we've seen the news, right? So Walmart has partnered with OpenAI for ChatGPT, and to me, that's not a novelty. That's a signal. All right. So that is a signal for the role that AI is going to play in this very, very important space moving forward. So I think it's important, in order to answer the question, not only where we're going, but I think it's important to understand a little bit where we've been and why this is such a pivotal moment in time for this. So if you kind of look at what has made brands successful in the world of retail, right? You have all these different evolutions of, we started with P&G coined the phrase, the first moment of truth, right? It was all about the package, and it was about that presentation on shelf, which moved into the second moment of truth then it was, how are customers using your products and what was their experience and what kind of product reviews were out there. And typically most of us, you'll put a product review in when you've either had a really good experience or really bad experience. You kind of miss that middle of the road piece. But then it was Google deciding, saying, no, it's really about search and merchandising. I think there was even a book about it. It was the zero moment of truth, right? And that was where you're going to win in retail. And where we're at today, though, and I think what makes this just such an exciting time in this space is you kind of have to call this like the perpetual moment of truth, where when someone is inspired, your brand wins when you are that gateway to make a frictionless experience and a frictionless purchase. That could be a service, that could be a product, but obviously in this perpetual moment of truth, frictionless commerce is where we're going to win in this space to go about that. So. When I teach at the U of A, we teach it's really applied AI. I am certainly not an expert in the algorithms and the machine learning underbelly behind it, but a lot of the MBA students were focusing on how do we actually apply this. It's been the hardest classes to teach, because by the time I finish teaching something, it's obsolete and it changes. Sometimes as a professor, you can, not that any professor ever reuses their content, that would never happen. But in this space, you just can't, because it's changed so quickly. But in this world of perpetual moment of truth, there's been a couple of key milestones. I mean, probably all of us remember the first prompt we did in ChatGPT, right? And you're like, oh my goodness, this is a game changer. This is really, really real. We saw, the first time we did an image and all those things, but there truly was this milestone moment for my students and I over the last 3 months. And it was this AI browser piece. Anybody played with Comet or Atlas or really heard of this? So two major, of course, AI companies, OpenAI, produced this browser called Atlas, and Perplexity, another AI tool, produces this tool called Comet. And on the surface, you might look at this and say, well, the last thing we need are more browsers, right? I already use Safari, I use Chrome. But what is so significant about this moment, though, is that to have an AI-infused browser, it looks like Chrome, it looks like Safari, it looks like Edge, it smells like it. I mean, it has the same exact interface about that. But what is happening now is that it's agent-driven, so that I can literally be on a page on Walmart.com, or I can literally, even before I even open that page, say, I am looking for noise-canceling headphones between $125 and $150. I need it to arrive in my house by Friday before my flight leaves. go. And it literally, it can take control of the browser, and it can literally go through all the iterations on that. So we're going to talk about this. I think a lot as a panel today is, what does that mean, right? And what does that mean for you as content? But we are at an influx moment. This is as important as when ChatGPT really made AI available to the rest of us. I mean, AI has been around since the 1950s. But it was that moment of ChatGPT that actually made it available to the non-data scientists, to the non-PhDs, in statistics that can actually utilize it and understand that. So starting point. But I truly think we're at this influx point of now agents being able to do my shopping for me. It introduces a lot of opportunity. It introduces a lot of risk. It introduces a lot of things around governance that we have to think about as companies. But I kind of go back to early DBB days when we were talking about e-commerce, right? And it was this, we were trying to get customers over that fear of putting their credit card on the internet. We're like, oh, I would never shop online and put my credit card on the internet. That's too dangerous. And so the dangers we're facing today, I mean, obviously are going to be mitigated over time and about that. And so it is important for brands that we kind of understand now kind of what that means. So.
Well, it sounds kind of dangerous to let a browser just do some shopping for me.
Yeah, I think, just to, build on, what Bill was saying, if you kind of think about, the word agent itself, right? If you think of an agent, sports agent, is somebody doing something on your behalf, right? And so we've gotten to this place with technology where there's enough data signals, enough compute processing power, enough data speed now that all of this can really happen real time. And so we're looking at beyond just this ability to just find something. It's actually taking action upon what it is finding. And it's looking for signals, right? So these agents, these AIs, these LLMs, they're looking for signals. And where do those signals come from? Well, they actually come from varied sources, right? They come from your website. They come from the retailer's website. They come from your product page, right? They come from your retail media. And so now retail media, in the world of retail media, which is an area that, I work in quite a bit, and we're working to make the process of creating retail media ads very, very fast, very quick, very efficient, scalable. We're really trying to create, different ads for different target audiences. Well, those ads now become signals. And so how people will resonate with your message, how people will resonate across multiple surfaces with your brand, with your product, are signals that are going to be very, very important in this future of shopping. And so that's where I think about what is it really going to take to win in this space, right? And is there an opportunity to win? Like as it was said before, maybe by the time we get done with this panel, the things that we talk about might be different, might have changed, right? But it's really about consistency. Like I think of two words in this space. When I think about AI, I think about shopping, it's two things. It's trust and consistency. And there's trust that has to be played on two sides. The trust between the AI and the human. Because when you look for something, you want to feel good about what you're getting back in return. That's why when you interact with AI in a non-shopping sense, you always get a response, and you always get the real happy, positive, engagement, right? Because they want you to trust it. But then there's also trust between the AI and, in this case, the retailer or brand or product, right? There has to be trust. And so it's looking for signals. It's looking for data. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from your attributes, for your PDPs, making sure that's consistent. If there is a credential or a certification or a claim that is verified, and that claim is verified across other sources, like let's say consumer reports, like all of those signals add up. And again, going back to all the compute power we have today, the data speeds that are available, the reasoning that AI has now brought to the technology, all of those things now come to play. So now when you are looking for something, you're not just simply looking for a bottle of laundry detergent, right? You are asking for much more than that. How to plan for a tailgate, how to plan for a party. I mean, we can even take it back to the laundry scenario and even think about like people may ask like how to get out, certain types of stains or, how to freshen their clothing. And, you want to be recommended. It comes back to trust, right? And then consistency. Being consistent in your communication. Now, I don't mean literally consistent. It's more semantics. Semantically consistent from platform or surface to surface about your brands or products are going to help you win because, again, it comes back to that word, trust. The AI has to have trust in that information in order to serve that back to the consumer so they feel good about it. And then from there on the purchase, how the purchase process works, obviously there's a lot of opportunity through Apple Pay, PayPal, a lot of different ways to purchase. But really it's about, you got to feel good about it. I do think that there's still a lot of opportunity to really figure out what is the right modality for engaging with AI for the shopping experience. And it's probably going to be a multimodal type of experience where data is coming in through audio, visual, your browser and all of that. And that's the great thing about AI is it has the capability of processing that across, basically in real time. So, I mean, that's my, where I feel like we're going with shopping and a lot of different angles, but I still feel like it comes down to trust and consistency. And the more that you can provide that as a brand and the retailer as a facilitator of that is going to ensure that your product is well known.
You mentioned trust and having your data accurate. And I was thinking about just how much of our effort is going to be going to optimizing product pages for an AI agent versus optimizing for the human. It's just a question that's come up. It's like how much of our world is going to be really marketing to AI.
Yeah, it's a tough one right now because there's no playbook, right? Because not only are your consumers using AI to find products, they're also still going to Google, right? And they're still searching the old way, we'll call it the old way, through keyword search, right? And so what might work for Google through search may not work for AI and vice versa. So you're trying right now, the margin is relatively slim between those two and trying to optimize your content. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done in order to optimize that. I will say though, on the retailer side with your products, as many of your attributes that you can make sure are consistently completed, all of your claims is going to help in both situations. So I would definitely start with attributes. There is some fine tuning of the content on your PDP in order to work for both models, both through traditional search and through agentic search as well. I was having a conversation with a brand the other day, and they were talking about, well, they went ahead and they modified a lot of their primary hero images in order to work for AI, but then Google was penalizing them for when they were doing this, when consumers are doing search for the same products. It's going to take a lot of test and learn. I would even encourage you to, go into whether it's OpenAI or whatever LLM of choice that you choose to use and look for your products, see how they show up and continue to test that day after day after day. That is truly how you're going to learn. And so just set up consistency there. And you can obviously do that agentically. Maybe you set up an agent that will do that for you on a consistent basis and kick out a report or let you know when that agent is run on your products. And try, do a test and learn, do A/B testing, a lot of those types of things. Because again, the playbook hasn't been written yet. So it's hard for me to come up here and say, do X, Y, and Z, and you will get success every single time because what I tell you today, again, may be done or may be different by the time we complete this talk today. So,
Chris, what are you seeing on the brand side of things?
Yeah, so both panelists here, I think, kind of set it up well for us. And somebody that works on a brand on the Walmart business, it's a question that I can tell you we're trying to have a conversation about on a weekly basis, right? So I think since Walmart announced the ChatGPT partnership, I probably had no less than 100 conversations in the period of a month around like how L'Oreal is going to get to a point to where we're a leader in this space or at par with our peer set, right? And so I understand, and as you all understand, working for brands, these are questions that we need to answer, things that we need to be prepared for. I think BB said it well. It's a bit of a we're on the on ramp, right? and on that on ramp, we're going to discover a lot of things, right? Are we going to be able to accelerate to a point to where we're going to meet our peer set at the level in which they are, or are we going to be able to accelerate enough to exceed that, right? And ultimately, as a brand, you want to exceed that. You want to be in a position where you're leading your particular category or your particular item set for this particular retailer. And I think ultimately, as a brand, we have to think about how do we come along with Walmart and also lead them at the same time, right? So I don't know if, what sort of questions all of the different suppliers and manufacturers are having with Walmart. What I know is that they're still trying to figure that out, right? The moment I ask my buyer what they think about agentic AI and ChatGPT partnership and how we need to be prepared for it, a lot of him and han, right? A lot of like, well, you need to look at it. Let us know if you need any help. Maybe if we learn anything, we'll let you know, right? So kind of typical response there. And so I think for us, it's about, as a brand, how do we become better educated around how we need to prepare for this space? So that's why, I love to have the panel up here and learn from the expertise. And then I also think it's about how do we bring expertise to Walmart to help them understand what the future could look like for their platform. The good thing is, or I think all of us have noticed, right, over the last 6 months to a year, Walmart's made a lot of changes in the back end, right? Think about how often your CQS score has changed over the last year and a half, 2 years, right? I feel like 98, 45, 55, 75, maybe 10. Who knows what they're going to do week after week, right? But that shows that they're trying to figure out algorithmically how we're going to change the way our system looks at these items, and also force us as manufacturers to make sure we're providing that information. So if I could encourage the group here, when we think about AI, and again, I think BB said it well, it's like, make sure all your attribution is filled out 100%, right? I don't know how many of you know this. Moving forward, like we've gotten a little bit of a peek into what the new item creation process is going to look for Walmart. In the past, we've been able to get away with, let's just call it placeholder information to get an item number, right? We know that, Walmart requires that 18, 22 weeks out. Generally, we don't have the content available or the attribution available for Walmart at that time. Walmart's going to require that at item creation. So what does that mean? That means that your marketing teams, your brand teams they're going to have that attribution, that content ready for you at the time of item creation in the future. And if, we all know the kind of pitfalls of not being ready for that, right? Features late, maybe our item set is not where it needs to be. Maybe we don't get to the mod in time. And, we know Walmart doesn't like that. So I would leave it and say that as long as we're making sure we're focusing on the fundamentals, where we continue to learn and understand how Walmart is on this path, and ultimately we push our internal teams to be engaged as well, we should be in a pretty good spot.
Great. Can I add something to that? We've been talking about like the agentic shopper, and I feel like a lot of the companies that I talk with, there's this big barrier to entry of we're so far away from that. First, you have to do a data transformation, then you have to do an AI transformation, then maybe a workforce transformation, and then everything you're transforming to, like you said, it's obsolete because everything's changed. And you don't have to do that. I think there's opportunity, like, how can we scope it? How can we scope the products that we're trying to sell, what we have, focus on the attributions for a specific product set? How can we focus on where our data is best, where the supporting infrastructure is best, so that we can test and learn on how we can move forward with AI? You don't have to rebuild your company, rebuild your IT to get to this. We want to start doing AI. There's absolutely opportunity to assess what you have and start. And I think that a lot of people are afraid to just start because they hear a lot of their competitors say, we're doing this whole thing, we're going to be in agentic shopping. Every company's different. Some companies are big, some companies are small, some companies have bad data, some companies have a lot of good data. But understand where you want to focus and scope your initiative there. There's a lot of opportunity there. And I don't think that enough people realize that you don't have to just do this gigantic overhaul.
Okay, thank you. Great discussion so far. Okay, Bill's going to lead us off on our next discussion around strategic implications for your business. So, Bill, lead us off, and we'll talk about the supplier group as we do that.
Yeah, I mean, as we journey down this new road, I heard a great quote from a guest speaker came to one of our classes. Said that conversation is the new code. Right? We do not have to be PhD trained to get started in this space. Baby steps, right? Crawl, walk, run. As we look at this, and so I mean, the importance of teams understanding just the basics of prompting, what that looks like. It's really interesting. Here we are 30 years into standard search engine optimization and utilizing tools like Google, and still most of us aren't really utilizing Google to its fullest extent. And we would all claim, well, yeah, of course I know how to do a Google search, but a lot of us don't understand the Boolean operators and actually how to get a really powerful search in. And unfortunately, we're not going to have 30 years in the world of AI to adjust into that. So, understanding the basics of prompting and understanding, this is that I'm establishing, context in a role. I'm giving it a task, and I'm giving it constraints. And if I can understand that, but I can do it conversationally. That's why I love that quote saying conversation is the new code. That's what makes it available to all of us. And so, again, as we start to go down this road, I would challenge you to really think of this in 3 simple layers as you look at your product pages, as you look at your window into your product world and what that is. And those 3 layers are, you have the user facing piece, which that's what we're all familiar with today, right? This is what our PDPs are. And everything that we're developing around that, we've spent the last decade developing around it and enhancing that content. But I think these 2 other areas are the areas that really challenge you and say that we have our user-facing layer, but then there's this bot-facing layer, and that's that there's this layer of content now that really has to be a little more AI friendly. AI loves bullet points. AI loves tables. AI loves for you to be very, very, very detailed on that. There's, as I said earlier, there's our double-edged sword though, and that's AI will do something called hallucinate that I'm sure some of you have come across. AI wants to please us, and I don't mean that in a creepy way, but is that AI wants to answer the question, and in fact it is penalized the way that these models are trained. It's penalized. That if it's penalized if it says I don't know. Now there are ways around that. We could talk about prompt engineering all morning, and then we could talk about how you set up your tools and memory layers. Saying if you don't know the answer to something, I don't want you to hallucinate. I want you to actually prompt me for other questions around that. But there's ways to mitigate that risk, and so I wouldn't have that be a deal breaker for thinking about. For what those layers are going to look like. So you've got this kind of bot facing layer, and then you really have this kind of invisible layer underneath of the operational layer. Of instead of looking at your price comparisons, the model comparisons, your comp sales, all those pieces. Instead of looking at that weekly, to the point is that it is going to have to become a daily task. And the beauty about utilizing these agents, and a lot of times, I love the way you defined agent, but it is a subset of something we're already doing that just has an extreme amount of expertise. I mean, my business card, the first 5 years I lived here, many years ago, when I first started working with Walmart, the supplier committee, it said retail analyst. And I was so proud of that. I was an Excel jockey. I was not a retail analyst. And so now I have tools that can take away that mundane part. And we can truly do, and we talked about this for probably 2 decades at doing business at Bentonville sessions of let's move the 80-20 rule, right? Of 80% prep the data, 20% analyze the data, where we truly have the tools now that we can flip that script around. And it should be 20% prep and 80% true analytics on that. So exciting time in that space.
Good. BV, you want to move us and talk about the new frontier?
Yeah. So, I think as we've all kind of hit on it at various points. Like, the new frontier really, comes down to, how we are engaging with technology in this new way. And I love, what Bill said about just the way that you can interface with AI today. And I've always called it natural language programming. That's what I've always thought of it as. Like, as a kid in the 80s, I used to, do some programming in my room on my TI-99 4A computer using BASIC, and I'd spend all afternoon just to, make a very simple game, right? And so, but it requires syntax, right? And it was, you could make a mistake and it wouldn't run, and there was debugging, right? But now when we engage with AI, we can just, whether you follow a prompt structure or not, you can give it any question you want and you're going to get a response, right? And so, you just ask it. And as I said earlier, I think, chat to a certain degree, I think is a limited modality, right? Because it doesn't always see everything around you. It's not, sitting down and thinking through, okay, how should I structure this prompt in order to get what I truly want to get out of it, right? There's some friction there, right? And I think, as we even think about agentic shopping as well, or AI based shopping, what modality, what process is going to have the least amount of engagement based upon what you are trying to look for? If you're looking for a roll of toilet paper, I probably don't think you're going to go into ChatGPT and ask it for the best rolls of toilet paper. Probably not. I doubt it. You probably are going to either go to Walmart.com or go to Google and, and add it to your cart or add it to your list, right? So there are going to be these different moments that you will engage in AI in different ways. Obviously there's been, Google Glass is supposed to come out next year. Meta has had some success with the Ray-Ban glasses, right? There's a new modality. There's been a lot of pendants and wrist and bracelets. And so all of this ambient data that's coming in so that you can just continue to add more data, more information, prompt it however you want it, and you have that context, right? Because that's really the two things that really comes down to with why we are where we are with AI, is because, we have data, which we've always had. We've had AI, which is we've had in various forms. Now we have this whole process of bringing it together with a reasoning layer, right? That's the part that really is bringing all this stuff together in conjunction with the compute power of the things I've mentioned before. So it's really this orchestration between those three things that really brings AI, and the way that you engage with AI and how you engage with AI will continue to evolve. And I think, that gives us a lot of opportunity and probably puts a lot of fear in everybody's hearts, because we all want to make sure that our brands succeed, right? And so there's a lot of that fear of the unknown.
Very quick applicable point to piggyback off of that. Game changer for me was utilizing the Gemini AI tool, but using the camera mode, literally standing in front of the cereal aisle at Walmart. I have a son who, he's definitely allergic to peanuts. And literally, as if I was taking a picture, I held this camera up and looked at the cereal aisle, and I just used my voice. Wasn't anything kind of fancy prompt. Me as an end user shopper, and I said, what cereals are safe for my son, given if there's a peanut allergy behind that. And it was about 80 to 90% accurate, where it was almost like a heat map, and it lit up the product boxes for me that it was literally going back and reading the ingredients. And so imagine if I was a cereal manufacturer, that yes, it's in my ingredient list, but if I had gone into my contents, all my PDPs, and said, no peanuts, about that to go do it, that could even have pushed that higher up in the model to go do that. But it brings up the point, there was still human in the loop. You will hear this phrase in the world of AI, where as a parent, yes, it gave me a starting point from a shopper standpoint to be able to know where to start. I'm like, all right, well, at least I need to isolate it to these 2 or 3, but I'm still going to read the box as a parent. I'm not going to completely go trust that. And there was a human in the loop factor on that. But I think of that again from a supplier side. what needs to be developed on the content piece to ensure that that those models become even more accurate?
That kind of brings us to the topic of GEO. And so to set the stage on this, SEO is a term that means search engine optimization. And it's the science of getting your product or brand showing up in essentially was Google was really the only one. And there's Bing and DuckDuckGo and all the others. But the professional world of SEO has been focused on Google for the most part. And when we look at how you've already stated a lot of use cases for using generative engines or answer engines, there's a few terms like AEO, AIO, and GEO, and we've not decided what's the official one. But I'm sitting here as someone who grew up with Google, and I feel like all my Google prompting skills are out the window. I got really good at searching Google, and then ChatGPT came along and people started using that to write resumes and do different things. And I think we're at a spot now where the stats are there. It's a huge majority of people have been using ChatGPT and other AI engines to find products, to do their shopping, to find out which products are safe and have peanuts in them or not. And we're taking that with us everywhere now in different contexts. So when it comes to really getting your brand found in and cited in those answers, there's a scramble in the industry to try to figure out how to game that system and get your product to the top. But BV, I want to pass it to you and talk a bit about that as brands are here thinking about, we got really good at SEO and we were to the top of Google, but now the number one spot on Google is halfway down the page because the AI overviews are there and consumers are starting to use ChatGPT and Perplexity and the others to find products.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think Google has actually a great opportunity to win here, right? Because Google already has the mind share. Chrome has an exorbitant number of downloads. Everybody uses Chrome. I think for me in the future, what I see for the future, honestly, is AI enabled search. And I have this phrase in my head, and I don't know maybe how controversial this might be for this panel, but we'll know that AI has made it when we stop talking about AI. It just becomes the technology that powers the things that we use every single day. We don't even think about it. And I think that's exactly how this will end up going. But obviously AI is a buzzword. That's why we're having a panel with AI in the title of the panel discussion. And I think, it's as some of the things I've said previously, it's going to take testing and learning and experimentation, and you've got to spend time doing that or dedicating resources to, be that research R&D team, that test and learn team to continue to evolve. And I think that's really where we're going to end up. James, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll just add a point from a Walmart brand perspective. So I agree, right? Like we are on this kind of evolution, right? If you think it from a consumer standpoint, think about how you interact with the internet as a whole today, right? Like I'll be honest with you. I spend some time in LLMs and I prompt certain things, and we have an engine specifically for at work that is behind that kind of firewall, if you will. So we're not sharing data with the world, right? But I think every consumer is on a different journey, right? I want to say 10 years ago, I was showing my mom, where to put the URL in on the web page, right? So, we're all in a different set of journeys. So as I kind of alluded to earlier and kind of what we've talked about here on the panel is that, Walmart's going to come along as the consumer dictates what needs to happen on that platform, right? And so as we sit today, we're still in an 80%-ish SEO situation on Walmart.com, on SamsClub.com. So that doesn't mean that we need to go and everything needs to be geo tomorrow. We need to be considerate of that, considerate of the behavior, considerate that most individuals who search those platforms search them in a keyword fashion. So
all the things that you've heard over the last 10 or 15 years around make sure you're on the top of the keywords that matter the most, make sure you have the keywords embedded within your content. That is still important. Not to say, though, that we shouldn't be in this test and learn environment. And again, be on this on-ramp with Walmart. Understand what the needs are and how the platform is changing, because it is changing. It's changed tremendously over the last 15 years. And I started working in digital on Walmart right before they purchased Jet. So I've been around for a while, right? We've seen this evolution come along. I think from a content perspective, it's delivering the basics, right? What's Walmart asking for from me? And am I delivering it? And am I delivering at a level that is beyond what the metrics say I should deliver, right? So the water level in terms of the expectation from Walmart, or what we could or not get in trouble for, is, hey, you have to deliver X. We need to deliver above that, right? We need to be ready for that change. And so I would say encourage your internal brand teams, internal marketing teams to make sure that whenever that project innovation comes, or you have legacy items maybe where the data has not been aggregated to a level where it needs to be, let's make sure we get caught up in that fashion. Let's make sure we be considerate of where the consumer is today, how they're searching the platform, how the algorithm is deciding on where your product's going to be ranked. But let's also live in this test and learn environment and be ready for these changing dynamics with platforms like Perplexity and ChatGPT and GEO and AEO. Like, we should be considering what our product detail pages should look like 5 years from now. Not to say that needs to be implemented today, but let's go back and let's look at consumer sentiment. Let's understand what consumers are searching on the site. Let's understand what the trends are, because ultimately we know that search behavior is moving in that direction.
And I think what's great about that is you have all that data. Once you have that data, you can synthesize it, right, and then come up with strategies in order to affect your opportunities on with your PDPs.
I think that's outstanding advice when you look at when you kind of look at the whole model approach. Is that I think it would be a healthy mindset to take back to your teams to say, yes, today we're still competing for shelf space, and I mean that both in the physical space and digital shelf space. But over the next 5 years, will we not just be competing for shelf space, but we'll be competing for model attention and attention from these tools to understand my product more.
So prompting is another piece, and we are mindful of time because we want to have time for Q&A as well. But when we are looking at from the operational standpoint, you have a whole team and you tell them we're all going to use AI. We're going to be so much more efficient. How do you actually, what are some of those challenges that companies will face just from an operational standpoint? Chris, you mentioned having your LLM on a private, it's not leaking your information out whenever your team is searching. So Bill, do you have any thoughts on this, just the challenges from that side of things?
I mean, it's a new language, right? But this is an easy language. This isn't one that we have to go and study as if we're interpreting a foreign language. I mean, to BB's point, that's why it's called natural language processing. I mean, I think it's being able to have the skill set to know how to ask the right questions. But I would also encourage you to think about, how do you reverse engineer things? So a lot of times we'll spend a lot of times in class saying, we'll take an image and say, okay, let's actually have the AI tool reverse engineer that image so that we can recreate it again. And I would challenge you to think about, how do we reverse engineer how customers are interacting and talking to our pages, and just using real language about that and understanding it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely love that. I think, starting with the end in mind and working our way back is not natural for us to do, right? We always kind of start from the starting point and kind of try to get to the outcome. And I think as you work more with AI and you get used to prompting, like once you get to that end result, ask it, hey, how can I prompt you to get to this end result again quicker? And then save it, right? You should have a prompt database that you share, whether you share it for yourself for your own personal reasons, or you share it with your team so that everybody can learn from that and have like that shortcut. That's why I still think that there's some opportunity around the way that we engage with AI has some opportunity. Keeping prompts memorized and a whole database of prompts doesn't feel natural to me, even though obviously I do it because it's a necessity.
You want to know one of the best exercises to do for yourself in the world of AI as you're learning. We literally do this on the first night of class for the MBA students. Is we go in and everybody has their LinkedIn profiles, and we go into Claude, Perplexity, Copilot, and ChatGPT, and say, roast me. Roast my LinkedIn profile. You've got to have very, very thick skin. I wanted to cry like the first time I saw it. I mean, it was like, how insecure is this guy? How many degrees does he has to have? I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, but it was one of those, I learned what the model was looking at in order to pull that back. And I mean, one of the best exercises you can do is roast yourself, but to go back and roast your product page, right? And be able to go ask it from a competitive standpoint. And again, if you haven't played with the idea of agents, utilizing just at its simplest form and being able to form just a small agent inside of ChatGPT of create one for your buyer, create one as your buyer, like a fake buyer. And so my buyer is looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, at our line reviews, everything else is a part of that. And then ask that quote buyer questions about that content.
Just want to add I think one of the most exciting things to think about in this AI and prompting is how prompting is going to change. Like right now, it's all about and you kind of referenced this, Bill. It's like, how do I construct a question through text to get the answer that I'm looking for? And that's this point in time is how we're interfacing with that. We're on the brink of, okay, eventually people aren't going to want to people are going to be relieved from having to text through their phone. They're going to have glasses that are understanding visual cognition and going to be able to take the voice at the same time. And that's going to be the new prompt. And in addition to those prompts of now there's dual modality of being able to take vision and audio and then be able to process that and return that into something that is meaningful to you. But also a lot of prompting is building that contextual memory bank of outside of this question about what we know about you in a little bit. And at this point in time, you're able to build a repo of what is the context of who this person is, what I know about Bill. And his kid's 8 years old. I'm making up stuff he's 8 years old. The last time this happened was this time ago. They didn't have EpiPens in this amount of time. And there's all this context you can add to that. And the prompt becomes less about just the way that you ask a question and have a template that goes along with it, but everything that you can add in context into the memory bank to the LLMs and the systems that you're using to make those prompts so much more meaningful and such higher confidence in that what it's returning to you is something that's meaningful and powerful to you.
I got a final question, but Jack, I'll start with you. As we get inspired from this type of an event and we spend an hour thinking about this stuff, what's one thing that our listeners can do when they get back to the office, or even just what should they be learning on the weekend in their spare time? Jack.
Yeah. Love this question. Something that I think you should think about is what's holding me back. I think that a lot of us have these limited beliefs of, well, I can't do it because of this, or we're not going to be able to get there because we have these constraints. Kind of ignore the constraints that you think that you have, that your business has. Obviously, don't be risk adverse. Don't just start putting all of your company's data into an LLM, but think about there's opportunity for us. Maybe we have to scope it down. Maybe it's not going to be as powerful as our competitors are right now. But if I want to run a marathon, then I have to start with running a 5K or running 1 mile. Start and remove we can't get there because of this. Think about what's holding you back.
That's perfect.
Great. That's great. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, simply, I would say it's okay to ask questions, right? It's okay to say, "Are we? Why not? What are we doing?" I work at a large, complex company. I know some of you work at large companies, medium-sized, smaller companies. You might be the copywriter in your office. You might be the one that vets the content. You might be the one that thinks about how we're going to be prepared for AI and what we're talking about here today. But I generally practice keep asking until someone tells you no or tells you to stop, right? And, in a large, complex company, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different individuals working on different things. And, one thing I would say that's helped us is just bring it up in conversation, right? Listen, we have very complex things to do. We have a business to run. We have goals and things we need to achieve by end of year. I get that. There are certain things that operationally we need to get better about. I get that. But what are we thinking about a year, 2 years, 3 years from now? What are we doing now to be prepared for that? So keep asking questions, keep asking why not. And, ultimately, I think you're going to force the conversation.
Okay, what do you think about this group? Didn't they do a great job? Thank you, panel. Thank you so much. We could be here another hour, and we have that many more questions for you. We could do that, but there's a couple of things I mentioned on the front end that we'll be doing to partner with you. One, we will continue our AI in retail coming in 2026, right? We're going to be working on an AI with people. I mentioned earlier that that was my role at Walmart, CHRO. And so we're going to be working on that. That'll be coming up. So watch for that. You can even sign up for our email alerts. I mentioned also about signing up for our email at alerts at Doing Business in Bentonville. Every week, we will give you great information. We'll be a great source for you. As I mentioned, we are working really hard to become a media company, and we're getting there. You're seeing the statistics that will continue to grow. Also, I mentioned earlier is that in the old DBB, one of the most valuable things I had to help me guide the organization was a steering committee. If you're interested in being on that committee, you can reach me at my email and tell me you're interested. I'll reach out to you. What we'll do, we'll have some virtual meetings along the way. I'll ask your suggestions and opinions on guests we should have here, topics we should address. Just like this panel, we got to keep asking questions, right? And that's what we'll keep doing to help you in growing your business. The last thing we have is this. January 29th, on Thursday, January 29th, our next event, AI in Retail on Media. So you can go ahead and sign up for that. You will notice the people in this room are a very exclusive group. We will maintain that. The people here are people like all of you working with Walmart and Sam's in this space. We're going to keep it that way. We're going to have a lot of integrity in this group. So I recommend before we cap the audience that you sign up for that event on January 29th. Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure getting to see you. Thank you again. I hope to see you at our next event. Check us out, subscribe for our news email. And we want to thank again Acosta for allowing us to be here in this event. Thank you. Have a great day.